it's once every 4 years, and if you miss out on it, then boy, that's going to be a real bummer. I was watching the road race, the bike race, which is kind of boring, but it's really cool because the finish is under the Eiffel Tower. Like, that's where the finish line is, which is really cool. And it was the women's road race, and of course America wins because I'm watching it. And there were the American, she wins, and she won by like 48 seconds, which in bikes, then like that's like kind of an eternity if you think about how fast they are riding. And there were three riders behind her going for the bronze or the silver. And then whoever took fourth was not going to be on a podium and was not going to be home or not going home with any hardware. And I'm sitting and I'm not a cycling expert, but I've done 2 triathlons in my life. No big deal. I've been on a road bike every now and then. They're so far ahead of the pack, the rest of the also known as the peloton. But they're so far ahead of the pack that they're like jockeying for position and essentially daring the other to like, are you going to go? And are you going to blow out your gas tank? And I'm going to catch you at the end. And just like, they're not even going fast because they couldn't catch the American. And much like in the 100 meters, at least that's 9 seconds. And it's got to stink if you're the 4th place finisher in the 100 meters. But now imagine losing by 100th of a second after a 50-kilometer bike race. You're doing all that work, and you're right there. And by 100th of a second, you don't get a medal. And there's an old Seinfeld bit, so I'm kind of ripping this off from Seinfeld. But it's like, and then you go home, and it was like, oh, you're still doing that. You go to like a party or something, some little kid's birthday party. You go to a dinner party. And, hey, weren't you doing the? You were an athlete, right? Weren't you doing the? Did you do that bike thing? You still doing that? No, you were in Paris at the Olympics. Oh, how'd you do? Did you? I lost the bronze medal by 100th of a second, and it just sits and eats at me forever and ever and ever. Could have been on the podium. Could have been right there. Wouldn't have been my national anthem, but I could have been on the podium. Nope. I think it was the rider from Hungary. Sorry, Hungary. You go home and you go back to Hungary and you have to tell the story about how you missed out on winning an Olympic gold medal by 100th of a second. But Noah Lyles is the fastest man in the world. U.S. reclaims that spot, so that's got to feel good. USA Basketball has figured some things out. I might have been premature in my worry with USA Basketball because they're going into the quarterfinals tomorrow. They're massive favorites against Brazil. I think Brazil's got, 2? I think they've got like 2 NBA guys. But they're massive favorites against Brazil. I watched the entire Puerto Rico game. Team USA's got it figured out. They really do. They've got it figured out. Now it's going to be interesting to see ultimately. Now I don't want to count anything before it happens. Weird things can happen in the Olympics. You can all of a sudden get in some tight, close games, but they should take care of business against Brazil. Then you've got, I think Canada's on the other lurking out there. Spain is out there. France is out there, all littered with NBA players. But Team USA has figured some things out, and I feel like I should, at least as we sit right now, because I'm not rooting against Team USA. I want them to win. I want them to win comfortably. I want them to win by 20-plus every single game and take home the gold. It is fun to watch. I might have been a little premature in my my worry. Maybe it was all the hype leading up when a lot of hot take people who don't remember 1992 are like, this team is more talented than the Dream Team. Like, no, it's not. This team, you put them up against the Dream Team, they would win easily. No, they wouldn't. But whenever I start hearing about that, I'm like, great. Here comes American hubris. They're not going to take these games seriously. And credit to Steve Kerr so far, 3-0. Never an uncomfortable moment in the Olympics. Nothing even close to the pre-Olympic play. They've won every game going away. Even when Steph's not playing at his best. I saw, and I got to believe it's a little bit true. So Steph Curry's not been shooting all that well in the Olympics. Now, part of it might be the fact that for how many years has Steph been in the league? 12? 13 years in the league?
08 or 09 draft class.
Oh, all right, so this will be his 15th year in the league. For a good 12 of those years, he has essentially played offensive basketball the way that best suits his game for like 13 of those 15 years. There were some early years he had the sprained ankle issues, but Steph for the better part of a decade is like, this is how I play. This is where I get the ball. This is how the offense is drawn up for me, and this is how I knock down shots. And all of a sudden now, I think for the first time, he's in a spot where he's not dictating how the offense goes, because how could you? You're on a team with LeBron and KD. And then I heard Dwayne Wade bring up something on the broadcast, and I was like, I never thought of that, and it's probably correct. These guys are so dialed in on their shot, their spot on the floor, the way that they go about the look, the feel. Like, I kind of called malarkey a little bit. Remember when they had they switched out the basketball and Giannis was like, I know how the basketball feel. And I'm like, oh, malarkey, you don't know. And I was like, no. Turns out these guys, they know the feel of the basketball, the spot on the floor. And Dwayne Wade goes, it's going to sound ridiculous, but the three-point line might be too close for Steph Curry. And I'm like, that makes so much more sense than the offense. And he played a little bit better against Puerto Rico, but isn't that crazy? The three-point line, because for 15 years, Steph Curry has gone onto a basketball court, and a basketball court has had a line right there. And it's just in your head. That's where I go. This is how I spot up. When I'm this far away from the line, this is my release point. When I'm up to the line. Well, now the NBA, or you go to the Olympics, and it's a closer line. Is the three-point line throwing off Steph Curry's shot? That's kind of nuts, but I believe it. I would definitely, I heard, somebody was talking about it a long time ago before the Olympics, but it was like, you know how, you go and play pickup basketball? And most of us have all played pickup basketball, if it's in a gym, at a high school three-point line. We know where that three-point line is. The old college three-point line, the high school three-point line. You play it in youth basketball. You know where it is. And then you go to an old-timey gym where they don't have a three-point line. It throws off your spatial awareness.
Do you think also, I know he was also dealing with an injury, but do you think that could be attributed for why Dame kind of put up not quite numbers we expected 4 years ago? Just kind of that routine and rhythm of being such an elite shooter and, knowing your spots. And aren't the rims kind of slightly different too?
I don't. It feels like they are loose.
Okay, I'm like,
it feels like it. I think they just sound different.
Okay,
I don't know.
I could be saying that.
That's the weird thing about the Olympics. They've got the rims sound weird.
It's all the FIBA rules, right?
And so the horn is different.
Yes. It feels so international.
But yeah, with Steph, Dwayne Wade was saying, I think the line might be too close. He needs to take a step back, which is nuts that it might be a thing. All right, here's what we got coming up on the big show. Do you want to talk some NFL? We have now reached the point in training camp where the initial excitement is now over and have not reached, other than the Hall of Fame game, actual preseason games being played. And so you are starting to hear a ton of stuff, especially out of Pittsburgh. Is there maybe a quarterback controversy brewing in Pittsburgh? Because we are seeing a lot of hot takes. Plus, speaking of not hot takes, but hot water, Michigan might be in hot water. But coming up next, what I think Michigan could potentially do if they want to be a trailblazer, not a Portland trailblazer, but a trailblazer in what is going to be the new version of college football. What am I talking about? We'll tell you next here on 620 Rip City Radio. All right, coming up in about 25 minutes, we're going to continue our countdown to kickoff and do more positive college football news. But not all news over the weekend was all that positive in the college football world. According to multiple sources, Michigan football coach Sherrone Moore, new Michigan football coach Sherrone Moore, according to a letter obtained by ESPN, the NCAA has determined that Coach Moore could face a show cause penalty and possibly a suspension for allegedly deleting a thread of 52 text messages with former Michigan staffer Connor Stalions back in October of 23, on the same day that media reports revealed Stalions was leading an effort to capture play calling signals for future opponents. So October is going around. Connor Stalions thing is happening. It's happening fast. Sherrone Moore does what I think anybody would do. Be like, yeah, I'm going to delete all those. I don't know this guy. I don't know who you're talking about. Then the NCAA did an investigation. He handed over and cooperated, handed over his device because his device is, I'm assuming, property of the University of Michigan. It is not his own phone. He doesn't pay for his own phone. It's the property of the University of Michigan. And through the investigation, they're like, we got some text messages that you deleted. And according to the NCAA, that is a potential violation. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Deleting some text messages is what they would consider a level 2 violation. If level 1 being felonies in the NCAA eyes, level 2 are misdemeanors. So how could you face a suspension? Well, because now he is the head coach, and he would be under the multiple violator policy, because back in August of 23, a repeat violator, I should say, NCAA said that back in August of 23, he negotiated a resolution that claimed he contacted recruits during COVID-19 recruiting dead period. All right, I'm going to try to make this in law and order terms because it gets real red tapey. And now, trust me, we're not going to get too far into the woods. But in law and order terms, or if you watch Dateline, there was the cheeseburger incident, right? Well, and everybody likes to be like, the NCAA tried to suspend Harbaugh for some cheeseburgers. Like, no. The NCAA did was say, hey, coach, you're not supposed to be in contact with any of these players. It's COVID policy. And you had a barbecue at your house. And he said, no, I didn't. And they said, we've got the receipts right here. You lied to us. That's how Harbaugh got suspended the first 3 games of last year. And assistant coaches were also under investigation. And so Sherrone Moore basically said, all right, let's come to a resolution. I'm just an assistant coach here at Michigan. No way I'm going to be the head coach next year. Sure. Level 2, 2 years probation on NCAA, whatever. Fine. Well, then the Stalions thing happens. And now they found that he deleted text messages, which, again, same kind of thing. And now he could be facing show cause, which means it follows you around wherever you go, even if you're not the head coach of Michigan, and could potentially be suspended. Also, multiple level 1 violations by Michigan staff members. Harbaugh at the time, which he doesn't care anymore. Denard Robinson, remember that guy? He was on the cover of a video game. And a guy named Chris Partridge, who I don't know. Also Connor Stalions. So all of this rule violation stuff coming from Connor Stalions is now coming back in the fold for Michigan. And if you forgot about Connor Stalions, there's going to be a Netflix show. Turns out he was totally spying on other teams. That is against the rules. It seems like a silly, outdated, antiquated rule. The NCAA is like, well, you know us. Rules are rules. We're sticklers for the rules. These are level 1 penalties now. Michigan, you might be in a bit of trouble. I don't want to sit and relitigate the whole Michigan thing because I know you guys don't care about that. Here's what I do wonder, though, moving forward, because we are in a new era of college football. We're in a new era of college athletics, where it seems as though every time the NCAA has tried to come in and make a ruling on certain things, they get sued, they go to court, and they lose. They're like 0 for 3 in their last big lawsuits. It's not a good record for the NCAA because nobody thought through this whole paying athletes thing, and now that it's a business and antitrust laws that you have been skirting around for the last 150 or so years was going to be a thing. Well, it turns out, yeah. Hey, we're going to limit players' transfers. No, you're not, because that's their ability to get paid. Can't do it. We're going to eliminate roster spots. Yep. Can't do that again. Once again, antitrust. And so the NCAA is grasping at straws. At what is it you do here? I think most college football or most college fans probably are looking around just like the Bobs did in Office Space. I was like, all right, well, NCAA, there's no real violation for paying players anymore. You can do that now. You can actually pay them directly. As a matter of fact, some universities are putting their players' Venmo in the program so that fans can just pay them directly. That's happening, by the way. Hey, at the game, enjoying the game, hot dog, beer, tight ends Venmo. You want to get him $50? Like, it's right there. Which, I mean, I guess it's getting creative. Good for you. So, can't really bust people for paying players or extra benefits because now the players are getting paid. The whole extra benefits thing is out the window. The bagel with the cream cheese. Remember that ruling? If you just gave a player a bagel, it was considered a snack, which was fine under the NCAA. But if you gave a player a bagel with cream cheese, that counted as a meal. That was one of my favorite NCAA rulings, and that was deemed a violation of policy outside of the sports count. Well, that's all done now. All the players can get fed, which, by the way, they were the entire time. That's the biggest myth in college athletics pre-NIL was, these guys are out there laying it all on the line, and they can't afford a pizza after the game. It's like, do you know how physical nutrition works and how I stood next to Jeffrey Bossa, who is a linebacker for Oregon, just about a week and a half ago. There's no way you are 6'2", 260, and run a lightning fast 40 and can clean and jerk 300 pounds if you are not properly without proper nutrition. It doesn't exist. It was a myth. Either way, that's done now. All the players can get fed. All the players can get paid. Well, so the NCAA is probably going like, all right, like, so what can we do? Scouting rules. We can get them on scouting rules. That's what we can do. Here's what I wonder what would happen. Let's just live in this hypothetical, because for years and years and years and years, the NCAA was the hall monitor of big-time college athletics. They were the hall monitor. They were the vice principal. They set the rules. They enforced the rules. And it was a system that just everybody kind of volunteered. Well, now that players can get paid, and now that the NCAA has lost 3 major lawsuits, what if they came to Sharon Moore and said, all right, Coach Moore, you are a repeat violator. These are level 2 penalties, but under the repeat violator clause, you are suspended. What if Michigan just went to the NCAA and said, no, he's not suspended? It
would be bold.
But you have to. We're the NCAA. Like, yeah, you keep losing lawsuits left and right. We're going to say no. We're going to pass. Thank you very much. Because in the college football world, what strength, what teeth does the NCAA have anymore? They don't run the postseason. College football playoff runs the postseason. They don't run the regular season. Conferences run the regular season. And if I'm the Big Ten in the new season of the Big Ten, where you are in an absolute battle day in and day out with the SEC to be the top dog in college football, and you are battling not only for every eyeball, but those eyeballs also equal big-time dollars. And if I am a TV network with the Big Ten going like, hey, if I'm NBC, I'm like, Tony Petitti, please, from NBC. You can see it on YouTube. I'm doing a fake phone thing. Does this hit with the kids anymore? Like the thumb and the pinky is a phone? Because it doesn't really work in the real world.
It probably has lost some luster.
Like a little flat hand, like an iPhone. Anyways, like, hey, Tony Petitti, yeah, NBC Sports. You remember us. We just paid you billions of dollars. Yeah, we're going to need Michigan just fine. Okay? Because we paid all this money so that we could watch Michigan play at the high level, along with Ohio State and Oregon and USC and everybody else in the Big Ten. This NCAA thing, yeah, this isn't going to be a problem because the NCAA is not paying us any money. We're paying you lots of money. We need to battle and compete with the SEC. Guess what that means? Our biggest brands are not going to be hampered. This is one of the 50 straws that broke the Pac-12 camel's back, which was what? The conference never backed. Now, I'm not saying with NCAA violations, but in a overall theory, the conference never backed its biggest brands. It did stupid things like make USC play on the road on a Friday night. That's really dumb. That's one of your biggest brands or your best teams. You never protected your best teams. Oh, the Big Ten plays a different game. And they're going to have to play a different game because you know why? The moment you take a step back, the SEC takes a step forward. There is a Cold War going on in college football. It's not out and out lobbing bombs left and right, but there is a Cold War, and the outcome is TV dollars. Who's more relevant, the Big Ten or the SEC? Who's going to get more teams in the playoff? Who's going to get more eyeballs on them? Who has the bigger brands? One has a team from coast to coast. The other conference has the most teams that put the most players in the NFL. There's a Cold War going on. And the Big Ten cannot afford Michigan, the defending national champion still. I know they're rebuilding and they have a new coach and a new quarterback and everything else, and they might make the playoff, but not likely. You get the defending national champion going into a season where there is so much money at stake because, again, if you ever wonder why anybody does anything, follow the money. If you're the Big Ten, you just go to the NCAA like, yeah, no. No. The Big Ten, we shall sanction all of Michigan's games. They're going to be fine. College football playoff is going to follow suit because if Michigan does go 10-2, what are you going to do? NCAA, give them a postseason ban? Yeah, the college football playoff. Again, that phone call is going to come in. Hey, college football playoff. Disney here. Pay a lot of money for this college football playoff to be on our air. We're not substituting Michigan for Missouri. No offense to the Tigers.
Tigers might be pretty good this year.
They might be. That's why I picked it. But yeah, you know what I mean?
It's fair.
Who's going to get average Joe in the middle of the country unless they are a Missouri fan to watch college football playoff? Michigan or Missouri? Or, no offense to anybody, like Arizona or Wisconsin or Oklahoma State or any of the other teams that might potentially. Michigan's getting in. So if I'm Michigan, and more importantly, if I'm the Big Ten, and the NCAA comes like, all right, guys, you were spying on other teams, and they're like, yeah, we don't care. They're going to play. Hey, yeah, but Coach Moore is definitely going to be suspended. No, he's not. Now, you might be like, Justin, didn't Harbaugh get suspended? Yeah. So let's go back to how Harbaugh got suspended. And this is why I think Michigan might ultimately have this response. The NCAA was coming down on Michigan for the COVID stuff. Michigan did what smart universities do back in the old days, which is, all right, we shall self-report. And Coach Harbaugh is going to serve a 3-game suspension at the beginning of the season. That's East Carolina UNLV Bowling Green, in case you're wondering. East Carolina UNLV Bowling Green. Those games, 30-3, 35-7, 31-8. No Coach Harbaugh. Why? Because Michigan, all right, we'll self-impose. Coach is suspended. We're sorry about deleting the emails. No more cheeseburgers in COVID because it's 2023. No more barbecues during COVID. Got it? Got it. Well, then the Connor Stallions thing came down in October, and that is when the Big Ten was like, Harbaugh, you can't be sending advanced scouts. This is setting a bad precedent. And so the Big Ten suspended Jim Harbaugh. And now the NCAA wants their bite at the apple. And if I'm Michigan, I'm like, wait. We already suspended Harbaugh 3 games. The conference suspended him 3 games. We went 6 games in a national championship season without our head coach. One of which was against a top 10 team in Penn State, which they won 24-15. And then remember, we got the eulogy of Jim Harbaugh after that game with Coach Moore. We're not suspending our coach anymore. Well, yeah, but you're going to lose some scholarships. Yeah, we thought about that too. No, we're not. Nobody has really litigated the 85 scholarship limit that has been implemented. And again, because the smart teams are now bringing in preferred walk-ons. Oh, what are preferred walk-ons? They're just paying them with NIL instead of scholarship money, and they're getting around your 85 scholarship limit. No, this is a preferred walk-on. He's getting like $200K a year, though. Yeah, it's really nice. And he still gets to be in the football facility. Basically, you have now an unlimited roster. Yeah, we do, because you didn't think this one through. But the amount of money that is at stake in college football moving forward. And by the way, of all the teams that could pull this off, Michigan is one of, I think, 15 teams in the country that could. What if? We learned a lot of stuff during COVID, right? Which is, hey, what if we scheduled a game on a Tuesday? Can't do that, can we? Turns out we can. What if we played a game on a Sunday morning before the NFL? On the West Coast? Yeah, on the West Coast. We can't do that, can we? Yeah. Turns out we can. We can do a lot of stuff. Well, clearly when the NCAA brings the hammer down, you have to acquiesce. Nah. No, we don't. The NCAA doesn't run the conference. The Big Ten does. They don't run the postseason. Now, the problem that could arise from this, there is one backlash that could happen, is if the NCAA then got petty and said, all right, fine. Hey, Michigan, your basketball team's not in our tournament. We suspended your football coach. You said no. That's lack of institutional control. Your basketball team's not going to be in our tournament. Because they do run that. That could be a potential something. But I just wonder. Hey, Coach Moore, you're suspended. Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm going to show up. I'm going to stand on the sideline. What, are you going to arrest me? It's my sideline. We run it. Now, here's the other thing, too. The very unique thing about Michigan. Brenden, I don't know if you know everybody's schedule off the top of your head, but you know Michigan plays week 2.
Can't say I do.
They play Texas. They ain't suspending Coach Moore for the Texas game. That's not happening. That is a big noon kickoff on Fox, week 2. $350 right now to get into the worst seats in the big house. And he ain't getting suspended. Maybe week 1 against Fresno State. Doubt it. But that week 2 game at the big house, Steve Sarkisian and the Texas Longhorns, another playoff team from a year ago, new SEC, Big Ten SEC battle now. Yeah. Good luck suspending the head coach for that. Too much money's at stake. And I think moving forward, I wonder if the NCAA is going to have any teeth. Like, we're going to suspend and limit scholarship. Yeah, no, you're not. Because you were ultimately going to send us to court, and we're going to win in court. Because your rules are silly and they don't hold up anymore. All right, we're gonna have some good news, some fun stuff as we continue our countdown to kickoff. It's getting close as we go on campus next. 620 Rip City Radio. All right, we are about to go on campus. Speaking of on campus, it's almost back to school time. See how I did that? And it's important for students to have the tools that they need for a successful school year. So we've partnered with our good friends at Lazy Boy for the annual It's the Stuff the Bus school supply drive. It's now through August 19th. Donate a backpack or 10 miscellaneous school supply items to any of these 6 local Lazy Boy locations. That includes Eugene and Salem. And you could receive up to 25% off your Lazy Boy purchase. Some exclusions do apply. The Salvation Army then will distribute your donations to local families in need. So we thank you for your generosity. You can also get more details at the community page at ripcityradio.com. All right, the number is now 26. We started this countdown to kick off in the triple digits. We are now down to 26 days until college football 2024. Let's go on campus. All right, so this popped up on my TikTok. I have a slight TikTok addiction. I'm hooked to that thing. But nothing really like bad pops up on mine. They're not trying to warp my mind. They're like, he's too old, can't warp it. So it's mostly
It's maybe what they want you to think.
Maybe, but it's all country music and cooking videos and college football. As interesting as that is, and there's a podcast out there, and forgive me, I've already forgotten because it's just on my TikTok, but it's a couple of old coaches. One is an old, I think, like assistant receivers coach at Alabama, and they were talking about like this is how you know Alabama is a little bit different, and how Tuscaloosa is a little bit different. Brenden, you cover the Oregon State Beavers. Tomorrow, I'm assuming you are going down to Corvallis because they shall be holding another practice. And you or really anybody could kind of watch practice, right? Not on the field, but I've been to Reser. It's not a fortress.
Not anybody. You have to still be a media member. Not
but okay, but if I didn't have a credential and I was just like, I found myself on the top level of the parking garage there.
Sure.
I could watch it, right?
Sure. But
okay.
Yeah, no, they have now 3 or 4 red jackets that make sure you can't just walk into practice.
But point being, like, from a distance,
yeah, sure.
I could sit there and I go like, nobody's going to really shoo me away.
Yeah, for sure.
Not on the sidelines like you. Well, this guy was telling the story about Alabama. And I had heard a story once that at Oklahoma, they also had a parking garage that overlooked the practice field, and Bob Stoops paid the money for extra security guards during practice to essentially roam the parking garage to make sure nobody was standing there. This is how paranoid these coaches are. Well, apparently in Tuscaloosa, they take it to another step. At the practice facility in Tuscaloosa, there is a set of apartments. Nothing really crazy, just, normal. It's a college town, a lot of apartments in college towns, right? A lot of kids. And this assistant coach went to one of his other coaches and was like, I always found it interesting that nobody's ever out on those balconies watching practice. And coach goes, yeah, it's part of their lease agreement that when you rent those apartments, you're not allowed on your balcony between 2 and 6, which is practice time for the Alabama Crimson Tide. It's in the lease agreement.
Wow. Okay.
Apparently,
I'm impressed.
There was a story of a working crew at Alabama that was they were just maintenance guys. Brenden, they were on the roof fixing like a vent or a duct or something. And they had stopped working, and somebody noticed it. And Saban tells the guy makes a call. All of a sudden, Alabama's security is on the roof. And the guys packed up their stuff and left, and were basically told there are 20 hours in a day you can be up on that roof working. From 2 to 6, you do not. You don't get to work on the roof.
Could
you imagine you sign a lease agreement with an apartment? Like, I've never read the lease agreement of an apartment that I've rented, but could you imagine they're like, yeah, you really need to pay attention. This is our football clause that between August to about January, from 2 to 6, make it 6:30 to be exact. You aren't allowed on your balcony. You ever wonder why things are a little bit different?
Now, I'll say
in
this.
Big boy football.
I've never been, I don't know if it's a pleasure or not. I've never been to Tuscaloosa, Alabama. That being said, Ryan Grubb took one look at Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and was like, yeah, no, and went back to the West Coast. But
he also got a job in the NFL.
Be that as it may.
Fair.
It's true. It's like, it was convenient, Justin, because, it's, let me put it this way. The city of Eugene would be okay if Oregon wasn't there. City of Corvallis, a little tougher, but
it'd be tough.
Would still be there.
You sure?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. All right.
I am.
I mean, Philomath does exist. Philomath is pretty much non-Oregon State Corvallis.
But that being said, what is there in Alabama without?
I'm sure there's something.
In Tuscaloosa, if you took away Alabama, not much. It is. Yeah, Alabama without football.
I think Alabama gets a bad rap as a state.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never been there either, so maybe
maybe
we should go and find out. But I don't know. I just thought it was an interesting story because I'm old enough to remember. So when Mike Bellotti had Oregon football, basically 3 days of the week, anybody could watch practice. Anybody. Now, also, they practiced out in the open. You drove by on what is now MLK. Back in the day, it was Centennial Boulevard. You drove past it. You saw it. Back when Rich Brooks was coaching in the early 90s, the practice field was on the other side of the street. You know how Autzen is, and then there's the big thoroughfare? Well, where everybody parks now, that used to be a practice field. So you could drive by and watch practice. Obviously, it was the 90s. It was different. And then the first year that Chip Kelly was there, they had open practices. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, is like, yeah, nobody's allowed to practice ever. You know all those windows inside the Moshofsky Center, which is the indoor practice facility, because the Duck Shop, which is a souvenir store, is attached to the Moshofsky Center, and you can look through. You could look through the window and watch what's going on in the Mo Center if you were shopping at the. Yep, that was fogged over. Fog over that window. Reporters are waiting outside to see which players are walking from the Moshofsky Center to the locker room at the Casanova Center, because you have to walk through a public. Yep, we're changing the way we walk. There's a new way to walk now. It's a different world. The espionage, and then you got Connor Stallions out there pretending to be a Central Michigan head assistant coach. We have got a whole bunch more. Hour 2 coming up next. 620 Rip City Radio. It is 7 a.m. on a Monday morning. Justin Myers with you. Noah Lyles is the fastest man on the planet. He wins gold for the U.S. in the 100 meters, 9.78 seconds, edging Jamaica's Kishane Thompson by .005. That's the thousandth of a second, by the way. Photo finish gets Noah Lyles the win. World champions of what? World champions of the world. Congratulations, Noah. Michigan back in the NCAA news, and not for good reasons, as Coach Sharon Moore, according to the NCAA's leaked letter, violated NCAA rules relating back to the Connor Stallion scandal. Team USA men's basketball squares off against Brazil in the quarterfinal round tomorrow, 12:30 tip time from Paris. Coming up, hour number 2 of Rib City Mornings, and it starts right now, 620 Rib City Radio. Hey, welcome back to Rib City Mornings, everybody. We've got Make or Miss coming up in 20 minutes. Stuff we saw on the internet coming up in about 45 minutes. Hopefully no more swimming stories from Paris. They weren't always the best stories. You can do your research on that if you want to.
I thought it. I talked about it when I was floating the river yesterday. Said, thankfully, I'm in a beautiful...
You are in a beautiful river.
Beautiful Clackamas River with not debris coming at me.
Never been on the Clackamas River. Never been in that one. I am an Umpqua guy. I've been in the Umpqua River. I've been in the Deschutes River. Very cold, but beautiful. Did some stand-up... You ever did the stand-up paddleboarding?
In Hawaii.
I feel like maybe one of the top 5 most overrated things ever.
Yes, I didn't like it very much. Didn't like it very much.
That's a bit of hyperbole, but it's like, I don't know about you. I grew up like idolizing surfing, right? Surfing looked like the coolest thing you could do. All the cool, like there was Ocean Pacific surfwear, like all the cool clothes we used to wear growing up was all about Body Glove and OP and it was always like surfers and skateboarders were like the coolest dudes. And we talked like surfer dude talk became a thing. So I kind of idolized surfers. Tried surfing once. Terrible at it. Terrible. You got to, and I like to think I have pretty good balance, but I'm a big football, baseball playing oaf. All my weight's over my toes, wipe out every time. And I've always kind of had like this dream of wanting to shred like the cool surfers that I grew up idolizing. They're like, well, you got to stand up paddleboard. You can just get right up on that bad boy. You never fall off. And I'm like, cool. So I did that in the Deschutes River. I was so bored and tired. And I'm in good shape, but it's just like, meh, okay. Worst case scenario, you fall off. Best case scenario, you're kind of on a floating raft. I was out on the stand-up paddleboarding.
See a lot of people do it in the river, but yeah, it's not an inner tube that you can have a beverage in and relax.
Now that in Sun River, there's a float in the Deschutes where you can and Kelly and I did it once where you rented this inner tube, and it's a 2-person inner tube, and in the middle is a cooler. Hello.
Yep, have that in our collection too.
I was a renter, I don't own one because I don't float the river as much as you do. You're Floaty McFloaterson over there all summer long, and which tip of the cap to you. But yeah, I rented it, and it was like, hey, you can put beverages in there. Keep them cold.
Oh, yeah. No, it's amazing.
And maybe some snacks and a nice 4-hour float with some snack and got a Bluetooth, a waterproof Bluetooth. It was a good time I had on the old Deschutes River.
Oh, yeah. No, it continues to amaze me how just like, because I see so many of those Intex tubes, the amount of money that company makes off inner tubes and just, high grade rubber, whatever it is, coming over from China. Like, it's like, because it's that tube you mentioned, Justin. It's on Amazon for $39.
Is it?
Yeah.
I'm sure that's what I rented it for. I'm sure whatever that company in Sun River, and it's just like
it's so cheap.
Have you ever been there in Sun River?
Yeah,
where
yeah, yeah.
It's like basically a parking lot
Yeah.
and a shed.
I
and they
haven't
have like
floated
a
it.
gajillion
Oh, yeah.
floatable items. And you go there and you're like, here's my money. And they're like, how do I return this? They're like, just throw it over the fence.
Oh, I know.
I was like, what? Like, yeah, just throw it over the fence.
Totally.
And hey, if it pops, yeah, just put your hand over it. That's what they like.
But yeah,
That's what we're doing here? This doesn't seem like it is sanctioned. They're like, yeah, we have a fence, we have a parking lot. Like you said, we buy these things for $50 and we rent them out for $20 a pop all summer long. We're doing okay.
But
that's how would you return it? You just throw it over the fence? How will you know it's ours? We're good guess. You're not going to keep it.
But no, I'm out on stand-up paddleboarding too. See a lot of people do it.
Yeah,
but seems like a lot of effort.
A lot of effort for not that much of a payoff. All right, I did want to talk about this. I've had this ongoing debate with people. I firmly believe that college football is more popular than the NFL. I believe it is. And the reason why I believe it is because I have watched both. And kind of like, Brenden, you do recruiting. There's two ways you can evaluate a recruiting class. One is just overall, like you get 27 guys, you just count all those stars, boom, that's your rating. Then there are other places where they go, no, you need to take the class, average out the stars. So if you only bring in like 14 guys, but all 14 are high quality, that may be a better class. It's the quantity over quality, right? Well, I've always had this debate that I believe college football is a more popular sport because there's more college football teams. There's more college football stadiums, over 90,000 people. And on a Saturday, I believe more people are, but the NFL, it's streamlined. It's organized. It's Sunday ticket. It's you don't have to wonder where the game's on, right? As college football fans, especially Pac-12 fans back in the day, it would be the Thursday before the game. Like, what channel's the game on? Don't know. It might be on ESPN2. It might be on Pac-12 Network. It all depends on some other things. NFL, you don't ever have to worry about what channel the game's going to be on or when kickoff is. They're already set. Yeah, they can flex some stuff in. So I've always had the argument that college football is more popular, but it's just not as organized. Too many cooks in the kitchen. Yes, chef? No. Too many chefs. Not enough cooks. So with that, I have said for every sport, including the NBA, beware of fighting the NFL. And I have yet another example as to why the NFL shall never be messed with by other sports. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago that the NFL and the NFL Players Association are now currently in talks, and that the Players Association have had discussions at a very high level of potentially adding an 18th regular season game. Now, every NFL player has said, yeah, give us an 18-game schedule. We don't care. Just give us another bye. You give us a second bye in an 18-game schedule, we're good. And also the NFL Players Association doesn't want to start training camp early. So training camp's always going to start at the same time. Season's going to move to 18 games, ultimately. They're going to put in an extra bye. And ultimately, that is going to put the Super Bowl right around President's Day. Some of us may have planned our anniversary that particular weekend so that it didn't conflict with the Super Bowl, and then to have it a couple of years later be conflicting might be a bit of frustration, but that's just, I don't know, whoever would do that. I don't know who I'm talking about. But when that gets brought up, everybody was like, not everybody, but I would say most sports fans were like, perfect. A lot of us get President's Day off. We've been wanting the Monday after the Super Bowl off for, I don't know, my entire life. I'm sure your entire life, Brenden, you have heard the whole, give us Super Bowl Monday off. Completely overlooked. You know what goes on that weekend on Sunday every single year? Daytona 500. Now, obviously, NASCAR, not the biggest sport in the world, but Daytona 500 is something everybody's heard of, right? Kind of a fairly popular thing. They call it the Super Bowl of auto racing. Well, it turns out Daytona 500 might have to move, which is going to move the entire NASCAR calendar.
NASCAR doesn't.
Based on if the Super Bowl is. How nuts is that?
It's very nuts.
It's why you don't mess with the NFL.
But when you think about it this way, and again, this is just but like NASCAR is a regional sport, right?
No,
like it is the Southeast. And,
But I'm just saying, just like me, who live here in the Pacific Northwest, I'm not a big NASCAR fan. I did watch the NASCAR Netflix thing, which was awesome. Need more of that. It's much easier to follow the sport when they just condense it like they did with the F1. But we know about the Daytona 500. Like, hey, name a NASCAR race. Daytona 500. Like, everybody knows that. Don't mess with the NFL, man. The NBA owned Christmas. The NBA owned Christmas. Most of us are sitting there with our families. You've opened presents. You've had breakfast. You need something to do before Christmas dinner. We all just watched the NBA. And it was a big deal, right? NBA games on Christmas Day. They got special shoes. Kobe wore the Grinch shoes on Christmas. They're like worth a gajillion dollars now. Outside of Jordan's, I think they're maybe some of the most coveted shoes ever. So, all of a sudden, the NFL this last year was like, NBA, that's cute. We're going to play on Christmas. Christmas is on a Sunday. Sunday's our day. And they're like, surely you're not going to do that again, right? Because Christmas is on a Wednesday. I think Christmas is on a Wednesday this year. Surely you're not going to keep playing. And the NFL's like, yeah, turns out we are. And don't call me Shirley. Like the great American race of the Daytona 500, which I am not a NASCAR fan, yet I tune in to watch the Daytona 500. That if there was ever an event I would like to go to, Daytona 500 is on there. Probably to sit in the parking lot and crush light beers with the boys. But if there was ever once again evidence, do not mess with the NFL. They will take your day and they will not care. Hey, 18-game schedule. That sounds awesome. Well, you're going to move the Super Bowl. They already moved the Super Bowl once up when they made the 17-game schedule. Why don't you just move it up again? Yeah, that's not conflicting anything, right? Hey, NASCAR here. NFL, real quick. Yeah, Daytona's like our kickoff, and every other race is determined upon that date. And so moving that, I mean, it really puts a wrench, pun intended, into our system here. NFL's like, yeah, we're sorry about that, but we're gonna go ahead and take that because we play the Super Bowl when we want. Don't mess with the NFL. NBA, they learned. Hey, we got Christmas, right? Yeah, no, we're gonna go ahead and take that from you. Thanks, though. It's been real. We own Christmas now. All right, coming up, we've got Make or Miss. Before we get to that, I do want to let you know about Ticket Tuesday. That's tomorrow. As we keep the winning streak alive, exclusive tickets to the Hillsboro Hops all season long. Make sure you listen to Rip City Drive each and every Tuesday afternoon for your chance to win. You can also get your Hops tickets now at hillsborohops.com. Make or Miss next, 620 Rip City Radio. Coming up in about 25 minutes, stuff we saw on the internet. Also coming up in hour number 3. The NFL Network does this every year, and it's a fun thing to do in the off season, where they rank the 100 best players in the NFL. Now, it's not just the host or a bunch of producers or even fans, for that matter. It is a poll of players and coaches and executives in the NFL where they rank the players, current players in the NFL, 1 through 100. And players. When I was covering the Seahawks, players cared about it a lot. It was brought up, and because it's kind of a barometer of how your peers see you. Let me just say, there's some haters in the NFL. There are some hating haters out there because the top 5, let's just say it got weird. We're going to talk about that coming up in about an hour or so. Right now, though, hey, it's time for Make or Miss.
All right, fired up Make or Miss here on a Monday. Using both Russell Wilson and Justin Fields would be a bad move for the Steelers.
Yeah.
Two quarterbacks is no quarterbacks.
That's a make. It is. It's a make, and
pick one.
You got to pick one, and you got to go with them until that person doesn't work, and then you go with the other, which is why I still believe Russell Wilson will be the starter week 1. Because let's talk. I don't want to turn this into a Steelers segment, but I would say, Brenden, fair to say the most fascinating quarterback discussion of the offseason? There's no other real quarterback competition that has 2 names like the Steelers have, and the fact that neither of them are a rookie. You know what I mean? Almost every other quarterback competition going on in the NFL right now has to do with veteran, middle-of-the-road pro versus rookie, which is tale as old as time, song as old as rhyme. This is an actual legitimate QB competition. So let's talk this out. You cannot play both. I think Mike Tomlin is as good of a coach as there is in the NFL, but even he knows the dangers of playing 2 quarterbacks. You can't play both. Quarterback is management on the field. You have to have consistency. The other thing you cannot have, and this is why quarterback competitions that become quarterback controversies become so detrimental. To win in the NFL, you have to have talent. Can't win without talent. You got to have talent. But a lot of teams in the NFL, even the Carolina Panthers, they've got talent. To win in the NFL, you have to have talent. To win in the NFL, you have to have coaching. And also to win in the NFL, you have to have leadership. There's a reason why the Kansas City Chiefs win as much as they do. 1, they got a lot of talent. 2, they got really good coaching. Andy Reid might be the best coach in the NFL. But 3, you cannot deny that every time the Kansas City Chiefs step onto the field, they don't look around and see number 15 and go, that's our guy. We're following. It's the reason why Tom Brady was so successful. Name me one thing that Tom Brady physically did better than anybody else. I'll wait.
Screamed, "Let's go," as he ran out of the tunnel.
And he did that really high pitch,
I know,
too.
right?
He wasn't the strong. He didn't have the strongest arm. Clearly didn't have the fastest feet. He wasn't the tallest guy. No, you know what he did? He knew how to win, and he had genuine leadership capabilities. And when his team went onto the field, they were like, that's our guy. And our guy's going to find out how to beat your guy.
Right.
And that's the thing you have with the Chiefs. That's the thing you have, I think, with the Bills. I think that's a lot of you can't do that with 2 quarterbacks. You can't have receivers and linemen and running backs or coaches going like, who's our guy? Or even worse, let's just say you're splitting reps because, you've got 2 quarterbacks. One's won a Super Bowl. The other's been a very high-level draft pick. You split reps. The worst thing you could do is to go in, and let's say they pick Russell Wilson, which they are going to. And all of a sudden, he's got a bad first half. you can't have the guys on the sideline looking around going like, do we have the wrong guy? That's why you can't play two quarterbacks. Coaches have tried for a century. A century, coaches have tried to pull off the, hey, especially in college, this is the guy that runs and this is the guy that throws. But at some point in time, it's 3rd and 8. And your guys on the offensive line have to be able to look. Now, it's not in a huddle, but you have to look back and be like, all right, we got our guy. So, that being said, yes, Brenden, that is a make upon make upon make that you have to pick one quarterback. Russell Wilson's going to have to play so terribly to lose this job because I believe if you're the Steelers, he is the lowest risk to potentially be cut. Do you know what I mean? You start Russell Wilson, he doesn't play well for 3-4 weeks, cut him. Here's Justin Fields. He's younger. He's not on a better deal, but he's on a multi-year deal. You have an upside. You have a future. You can coach him up. There's a future you can sell. Russell Wilson fails, he's done. It's over. He's washed. It's over for him. It's a good run. More than most, not as much as some, but
so can you say
he's done.
Can you say for 100% confidence that he's not washed?
I cannot say that for 100% confidence. But I think if you're the Steelers, you have to find out. You can't start Justin Fields and keep Wilson as a backup. You got to cut him at that point. And that means that Russ is going to have to be playing so terribly during preseason, during training camp. I still think he starts. I think they give him a month. And if it's not working, they reevaluate, they cut him and put Fields in and build to the future. That's what I think the plan is. I think the plan is unchanged. But reports out of Pittsburgh are that Fields is turning a lot of heads in practice. But he always did that in practice.
I mean,
Chicago.
I guess maybe uniforms are magic in a positive way for you, Justin. But until I see something otherwise, I see the quarterback that miserably failed in Denver.
Yeah,
and was told
what about the quarterback that was really good in Seattle?
Long time ago.
He was really good.
I mean, not that in football years,
I guess in football years. COVID threw a wrench into all of our memories because I feel like 2018 was not that long ago, but that was 6 years ago.
No, and I'm not saying this to be because
it was good in 2020.
I really like Justin Fields. That being said, you got to convince me, can the old man, and it's and it's Russ isn't really that old, but it's he can't, do his signature kind of spin out of the pocket now for a couple years. What made Russ great, he's just taken a couple steps back. That being said, he's with a Pete Carroll-esque coach now. And Pete Carroll got at least playoff production out of Russell Wilson. So that was where I get what you're saying.
All right, let me try to spin this. Can I put a Steeler spin on it? And this is going to sound very arrogant as an arrogant Steeler fan, as I am. 6 Lombardis, no big deal. Patriots.
Most of them in the 80s, though, right?
Most in the 70s, actually.
Yeah,
even further back.
Just wanted to make sure.
4 of them in the 70s. 2 of them in the 2000s,
That's
though.
That's
Best defensive back to ever play football. Anyways, that being said, I do know the culture around the city of Pittsburgh. I do know the culture around the organization. This is not a knock on the Denver Broncos, as I think it was more on Nathaniel Hackett than the Broncos. But remember, when Russ went to the Broncos, it was new owners and it was a new head coach. And they wanted to make a splash, so they traded away a bunch of picks, and they traded away, decent tight end and a backup quarterback. And they got in Russ, and they re-signed him, and they gave him a bunch of money. We all know the deal. But then they let Russ go a little crazy because it was new ownership and it was new coach. And there was really not the old Bronco way to fall back on, right? This was Nathaniel Hackett. This is, the Walton family. And all of a sudden, Russ has got his own office. He's got his own shower in the office. He's got his own private coach. And then Sean Payton comes in and is like, no, we ain't doing that. Well, the damage has already been done. And so the Steelers spin, I could say, is Russ could come in and be like, hey, Pittsburgh, great, glad I'm here. I'm going to need an office. I'm going to need a quarterback coach. And Mike Tomlin and the Rooney family is going to be like, Russ, See those 6 trophies? You see, take a look up. See all those Hall of Famers? None of them needed their own office. You don't need your own office. And I think that could maybe bring him back out of the clouds and into reality. Because even like the later years in Seattle, it was the worst kept secret in the Seahawks was that Russ was having meetings with management over Pete Carroll's head. And Russ wanted input on draft picks and offseason moves. And the Steelers would be like, yeah, that's cute. Again, look up. See all those Hall of Famers? None of them needed to be part of anything other than just working and playing. So in that sense, I think it might be the best thing for him. Or there is a distinct possibility, Brenden, that you are correct and he is washed. It's happened before. It will happen again in the NFL. He might be washed.
Like
it might have just been a perfect storm in Seattle of perfect coaching, perfect timing, great defense, and it just that magic isn't together. There's a lot of moving parts to make a football team really good.
I mean, I'm more optimistic in Pittsburgh than I am Denver, but Justin, it was fun to root against him. Like, it was so much fun to see the Seahawks beat him and Nathaniel Hackett in that first game and start just basically the cataclysmic, rock down a mountainside of just like, oh, yeah, the Seahawks won that trade and it's not even close. And, I mean, I'll still say, like...
Did they win the trade, though? Because they really haven't done... They ended up not in the playoffs and fired their coach. I don't know. That might be a first lose-lose trade.
It could be.
Because Drew Lock's not playing at all.
But the Seahawks draft picks are still yet to flesh themselves out.
That's a good point. And I think a couple of them actually became starters.
Yeah, like the kid this last year, the safety, the rookie, I'm drawing a blank on his name, but he was one of the Denver Broncos picks.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I believe Tariq Woolen before that was
the big thing with the Broncos, how they lost, was the money that they gave Russ once they got it.
So much.
The sign and trade. That's what really hurt the Broncos.
Right.
But
it's just...
You're right, though. He could be washed. Now, let me ask you this. If we got John Schneider, GM of the Seattle Seahawks, and we got, let's say, Bert Cold, and we can't ask Bert about any Blazer stuff.
Damn.
I know.
Come on, man.
We can only. Do you think they go, boy, we should have kept Russ and fired Pete 2 years ago?
That?
Yeah. Do you think they would wonder what would be if you like actual?
That's a good question.
Very good question. Radio professional here. Every once in a while I get a good one. But the actual truth, you have to like Jim Carrey in Liar Liar, right? You cannot his pen is royal blue. That was a funny movie.
Great.
Did you like Liar Liar?
Yeah.
There are some people that put it up there on the same level as Ace Ventura, and I'm like, you're insane. You don't get it. You weren't there. Dumb and Dumber, you weren't there.
That too. It's like Dumb and Dumber, Ace Ventura. I mean, he kidnaps he saves Dan Marino, who was kidnapped. Like, put that in a movie.
Royal blue. That's hilarious. Anyways,
you
got the
Einhorn and Finkel. Finkel is Einhorn. Oh.
In it together, but how?
But yeah, sorry, back to your point. Liar, liar, yes. True serum.
If you could, liar, liar, whether it's Bert, whether it's Jody, whether it's Schneider, whoever was making the call to fire Pete Carroll, do you think they go back and go, boy, I wish we would have kept Russ? Wish we would have kept Russ and fired Pete 2 years ago? Because that was the whole thing, it was a power struggle. One of them had to go, and it was, and Russ went public with it. And because Russ went public with it, the Seahawks had to bounce him. You can't tell us you intend to cheat on us, but we still want to stay together.
That's interesting. Because
I just wonder if the Seahawks are, because does Russ fall off the cliff if he doesn't have Nathaniel Hackett? And clearly what was a job that was too big for him.
Right. I mean, it's a good question. I think that based on what we heard, Justin, the Allen /Cold YouTubes can see doing the Vulcan symbol here. The Vulcans, they were kind of done on Pete Carroll and kind of done on the Pete Carroll experiment. I think that kind of says a lot with kind of how they, quote, fired him, but really didn't fire him.
He's going to be in an administrative role. And Pete Carroll's like, no, I'm not.
Which,
I'm leaving.
That being said, I think either way they'd end up in the same spot. Even if they had let go Pete a couple years ago, I still think Russ would have probably had a bit of a decline. I do think Russ is, and that's why I think he could thrive in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh have a good defense. Seattle hasn't had an elite defense since the Legion of Boom. And I think that was what complemented Russ's skill set. Could he go to a solid conference championship? But Super Bowl level, I think he needed that elite defense to get there.
Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend to psychoanalyze Russell Wilson. Nobody could. But a couple of things that I do know about Russ. One is he did have essentially a sports psychologist working for him in his time in Seattle. It was this positive. It was why he was so, to fans, kind of annoying, is that he did not allow any negativity that was his process. Well, that guy who unfortunately passed away, and then he went to Denver. And remember, Russ, and again, I know this because I was there in Seattle in the heyday. There were fans that were mildly annoyed, but it was like, but he's a nerd, but he's our nerd. Do you know what I mean? Seattle fans were like, yeah, he's kind of corny, but you know what? He's our guy. We will put up with it. Devil,
Yeah.
Well, then he went to Denver, and Denver's like, you're not John Elway.
No,
you don't get an office. You're not John Elway.
Well, they didn't give it to him.
You're not even Jay Cutler. Like, you're not Peyton Manning. Like, we've had John Elway and Peyton Manning. You ain't those guys. And I think for the first time ever, without a sports psychologist and a new place where they were like, we have no history with you. We're going to boo you. We're going to criticize you. And I don't think he handled it well. Now he goes to Pittsburgh. They're not Philly fans, but Pittsburgh fans, they have no patience for nonsense. They don't. Pittsburgh fans have no patience for nonsense. Now,
it was so...
Maybe it'll be a refreshing reset for him. I don't know.
So, this is what I would...
This whole thing's going to be so fascinating.
Not on the same level, but just think of like 70% of the level, maybe 60% of the level, Justin. So you remember if you didn't live in Houston, the last 4 or 5 years, you hated the Astros, if you cared about baseball at all. I'm not going to say hated, but if you weren't a Seahawk fan, Russ irritated you.
100%.
Whether that was his... Remember the failed Subway commercials they yanked off it's spicy. That was the end of the...
Are you referring to the Danger Witch?
Oh, my gosh.
Because Russell Wilson...
That was the worst...
Because Russell Wilson, he gave himself a nickname that he was Danger Russ.
Yep.
And that became his Twitter handle.
Yeah,
and he's like, no, I'm Danger Russ. Well, nothing's Danger Russ about you, Russ. But then he created the Danger Witch with the leather jacket and sunglasses on because that's how you know he's cool. Are you referring to the Danger Witch?
The 3 or 4 versions that and it's funny because now you can't... They were scrubbed from the internet so fast, Justin. And that was basically when it was like, okay, I officially am done on Russell Wilson. And it's just like... He, very much how you told me, you're like, I'm out on House of Dragon. That's me with Russell. Out. Like, I'm done. Until you show me something that draws my interest, I'm done. He's your team, your guy. Enjoy.
But you go back 3 years ago, and almost to a man, every Seahawk fan, before he had that Dan Patrick interview, and when he was NFL's Man of the Year. I
remember that too.
Remember he was NFL's Man of the Year, the 2020 Super Bowl, 2019 season? To a man, 90% of Seahawks fans would throw themselves in front of a coyote to save Russell Wilson because he was their guy. And then he turned on him, and he faced criticism, really, for the first time ever in his professional career. He never really faced criticism before that.
Right in the middle of that, too, wasn't that the Super Bowl that he watched... That we saw him up. I think that was
he was with Goodell.
Brady Mahomes, I think. And, that was kind of like a big thing. Like, I remember that was kind of an interesting deal, too.
Was that one, or was it Mahomes and...
Or maybe it was Mahomes and Garoppolo. Might have been that one. But I remember everyone's like, Russ at the Super Bowl. Like,
one of those, yeah.
But, again, you go back and look, Justin. If you can squint, take away last year with Seattle, 6-8. But that was when he broke his finger, though. Yeah, played in 14 games, like you said, missed
came back too soon off the broken finger.
Yeah, and then and even last year, 7-8 was better than what it was with Hackett, so you never know, right?
You never know. All right. We have got stuff we saw on the internet wrapping up hour number 2. That's next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, stuff we saw on the internet. Dateline, Ohio. This is a story from the AP. And this is one where you hear the headline and you think this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. And then you read the story and you go, oh, I kind of get it now. Here's the headline out of Ohio. The Ohio State Supreme Court decides that chicken wings advertised as boneless can have bones. What? What are we talking about here? Well, first off, don't anticipate going to the great state of Ohio, ordering boneless wings and getting regular wings because they say, well, the Supreme Court said no. It turns out it's an intricacy in the actual court case. But in a 4-3 ruling in the Ohio State Supreme Court, and we are very passionate about wings, boneless, bone-in, nuggets, tenders, and otherwise handheld chicken items on this particular program. It's one of our top 5 passions. You and I don't see eye to eye, Brenden, on an awful lot of food. I think we see eye to eye on the chicken tendies or the nuggets or the boneless wings or whatever you want to call them. But in this case, it gets real nitty gritty. So here's what happens. This thing that happened really got to suck. This dude named Michael Berkheimer, he was dining with his wife and friends at a usual wing joint in Hamilton, Ohio, and he ordered the boneless wings with Parmesan garlic sauce. Now, again, you order how you want to order.
Sauce.
I see. I was going to be a little judgy. I'm like, if you're going to, like, Parmesan garlic? Anyways, I've never had it. Maybe it's good. I don't know.
So you haven't been, like, there was never a time when you, like, tried, by this point in my life, I've tried all 16 Buffalo Wild Wings.
I've tried them all.
Okay.
I like classic Buffalo.
Okay, got you.
Or if I'm getting chicken tendies, honey mustard or a ranch.
Got you. I thought you were like, no, I'm just stick plain old Buffalo. Like, I know people who are like that, or like
tried the Jamaican jerk, which if real Jamaican jerk chicken, it's awesome as a dipping sauce. Not my favorite.
Yeah, I feel it.
I'm not the biggest fan of like honey barbecue sauce. I don't like sweet barbecue sauce.
Okay.
I like it tangy a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm a minimalist.
Sure.
Like about certain things. Sauces is kind of one of them. Give me ranch. Honey mustard, only if it's Red Robin. I don't know what Red Robin does with that honey mustard, but it is something. And or classic Buffalo. Either way, dude's eating his Parmesan garlic sauce, boneless wings when
just enjoying his boneless wings.
Sitting there on a random Tuesday, I'm assuming, enjoying his boneless wings when he felt like, that one didn't feel so good going down. That's weird. 3 days later, he was feverish, couldn't keep food down, went to the emergency room. Turns out there was a long, thin bone that had torn his esophagus and caused an infection. First off, that stinks.
That sounds like it hurts.
So bad. Well, as is policy in this country of ours, he's suing. And he sued because he said, I ordered the boneless wings. I should not have to expect that there are ever bones in the boneless wings. Now, to that I would say, I kind of agree with the state of Ohio here, or the Ohio State Supreme Court. I understand that if you order boneless wings, that you are expecting that there are not, but I know where the boneless wings came from. They came from chickens, and those chickens at one point had bones. You got to know that not every, like I get for my chicken that I eat every single night, I get boneless, skinless chicken thighs, and I Traeger them. Every once in a while, you get a little bone in there. Like they try their best to butcher them, but every once in a while, they'll miss one. I inspect them because I know that it might be there, and I slice it off of there.
A thigh, I could see more. I think that if you're exclusively working from chicken breasts, there should be no reason that a bone should be in there. And in my head,
I understand that, but I'm just saying, as a consumer, as one who shall eat chicken as you and I do, you got to keep your head on a swivel. There might be a bone in there somewhere. You're on his side. You're on Berkheimer's side.
I don't know if I'm on his side, but just like, it's impossible for me to, like, Justin, growing up, boneless wings were not a thing. Chicken strips were barely a thing.
Dude, chicken strips are so good.
Right, but that was it. So it's like now, my whole life, I've grown up with this idea of boneless wings, right? What's
the best chicken strips at a deli? Chicken strips, you get corn dogs, JoJo's.
See, I'm kind of out on, like, deli stuff.
Really?
Like,
see,
like,
we started this segment eye to eye, and again, we have diverted in our.
It's solid, but, like, I wouldn't go get chicken strips at the deli when I can make better fried chicken at home or go to KFC.
You think KFC chicken strips are better than the deli chicken strips?
Safeway? Yeah, I think so. I would if they were fresh.
I love deli counters.
Mac salad, all that, totally solid.
JoJo's? You on JoJo's?
Totally. And I love getting, like, fresh lunch meat and stuff there, too. But just, like, as far as, like,
corn dogs,
they've got, like...
You ever get a corn dog?
Yeah,
just
but it's not the fair.
It's not the fair. Nothing is the fair. First off, that's why the fair is once a year. But, like, back in my my tubbier days, or when I wasn't as strict on the diet, hey, go to the store and, like, sneak a corn dog on the way home.
Nice. I love it.
It's the best.
But, like, I don't, like, in your...
you ever do that? Like, you get sent to the store and just like, I'm going to grab a quick snack for the way home.
Yeah, like you've mentioned before, you're like, the fair is the place to eat corn dogs. I kind of look at it that way, right? But, like, or like Safeway, right, for example, they have, like, Chinese food, orange chicken.
Yeah.
Why would you not just go to Panda?
Because you're at Safeway. It's right there.
This is just how my brain works. Just how Brendan's brain works.
I used to ride for Safeway Chinese food, too.
See, I'm not hating. I'm just saying it's not, I don't know, maybe I don't judge, Justin. I don't judge. But
there was a point in time when I was newly divorced before I met Kelly, and I was living the single life. Me and Safeway Chinese food, we had some times together.
They sell it for so cheap.
I think it was probably that, and I'm already there. 2 birds, 1 stone. You know?
See, you weren't a stop, make multiple stops, Justin.
No.
I grew up where there'd be times where we were in one car and we had to stop at 2 different locations for 2 different food orders.
It's not allowed. Not allowed in the Myers household. It's where we're at. Get something you like. Anyways, that being said, he lost his lawsuit. He turns out in Ohio and everywhere else, boneless is still a way of cooking, not exactly a declaration that there shall be no bones in every piece. And I understand that because there's a bone somewhere. And while I'm with you, like, you shouldn't you got to keep your head on a swivel. It's just.
He probably swallowed the wing whole. If you bite into it, it wouldn't have been that big of a problem.
Sounds like this was just one of those crazy anomalies.
Yeah, perhaps.
And I wonder, like, could the restaurant have maybe done a better job? Or maybe he just was like, dude, I'm in the hospital because you ripped my throat open with your boneless.
At least pay for his medical bills.
I don't know. That might be a lot for a small business.
True.
That might be a lot. All right. We've got hour number 3 coming up next, 620 Rip City Radio. It is 8 a.m. on a Monday morning. Justin Myers with you. Noah Lyles is the gold medal winner for the 100 meters and brings it home for the United States with 9.78 seconds, edging Jamaica's Kashane Thompson by 5 thousandths of a second. Michigan is back in the NCAA news as Coach Sharon Moore violated NCAA rules related to the Connor Stallion scandal, and Team USA men's basketball squares off with Brazil in the quarterfinal round on Tuesday. 12:30 tip time from Paris here on the West Coast. Coming up, we might dive into Michigan a little bit more. What is the NCAA doing leaking this stuff with a documentary on the way, plus shenanigans in the NFL Top 100, an RCM mailbag. Hour 3 starts right now on 620 Rip City Radio. Hey, welcome back to Rip City Mornings, everybody. Coming up in 20 minutes, the NFL Network released their top 100 players in the NFL right now. And normally it's kind of fun to nitpick, but very rarely do you get an egregious error. There's an egregious error that, Brenden, I think I sent this to you on Friday. Was that how big of an egregious error this was? I was like, am I seeing this wrong? And you're like, no, you are not. So that's going to be coming up in 20 minutes. And we may revisit the top 5 of the top 10, see how we would shake some things out. Mentioned this back in the first hour, so if you've been listening to the entire show, one, hey, thanks a lot, but we really appreciate it. Tell a friend. Really love that about you, but if you were not listening in the first hour, so Michigan's back in the headlines, and I'm not going to sit here and dive fully into everything that's going on with Michigan football right now, but here's a I don't know how to say a condensed version anymore. I used to say Reader's Digest version. That doesn't exist anymore. And then you would say give me the Cliff's Notes. Cliff's Notes aren't a thing anymore, right? They're done too. So whatever the condensed thing that kids do now instead of reading the entire book anymore, this is the version of that.
I think it's just called AI, Justin. From what I've heard from my siblings.
Dude, okay.
So
I have told you this. I am scared to death of AI. Freaks me out. That being said, the fact that when I Google search something and the AI goes like, I've reviewed all the Google searches, I think you were looking for this. It's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. Have you seen that on the Google? Like, it was like, AI says, I think you might be looking for this. I'm like, you're darn right I was, AI. You nailed it.
It's pretty awesome.
Still freaks me out, though. Don't use it for evil. You know who you are. But it's not all bad.
See, it's not.
Still
it's
freaks
like,
me out.
See, for me, it's like it's the opposite of TikTok, right? You don't care about TikTok, and for me, I'm like, I think TikTok's kind of bad. So there you go.
All it does is just show me cooking videos and country music concerts.
And mind your data.
How can that be bad? Is corrupting the youth? Okay, fine.
But no, like, yeah,
but I get my own personalized screen of like stand-up comedy, country music concerts, cooking videos, and college football stuff. It's all right there on my phone. All right. So let's condense this real quick. Connor Stallion's documentary is coming out on the 27th, I believe, is when that is coming out. And I was hesitant because, I got excited about the Florida Gators one. Blech, dud. I was excited about the Johnny Football one. Wah, wah. Kind of a big dull dud. The Malice of the Palace one I thought was great. I wanted to hear Jermaine O'Neal's side of everything, and it was one of the perspective, because that's what these untold things do, right? And this is, I think, one of the new untolds on Netflix, which is they find a subject and you hear about it from their perspective. The Florida Gators thing was like, how did Urban Meyer see his Florida Gators? And it turns out awesome with no problems. How did Johnny Manziel see his? I might have partied too much and didn't watch any film, but we all had a good time, right? I think there was some more stuff I would have liked to have seen. Tim Donaghy lied again because he has between podcasts and 2 different documentaries about his cheating scandal or his betting scandal in the NBA as an official, has told 3 different versions on the record. So, but this one, I was hesitant. But I'll tell you why I'm excited now. And I am sampling this idea from a friend of the program, Josh Pate. So I'm giving Josh Pate credit for this as well. I didn't come up with this on my own. I heard him talking about it this morning from his show last night. What does the NCAA think is going to be in that documentary? Because they don't ever, I shouldn't say ever, very rarely does the NCAA leak stuff that they have on their findings. Does that make sense? They'll leak that such and such program is going to be under investigation or a notice of allegations is coming. This is a notice of findings on Michigan. Conveniently coming out 2.5 weeks before a documentary on Connor Stalions. And part of their findings, if you go and get really deep into it, Connor Stalions deemed uncooperative by the NCAA.
That's awesome.
So, and again, if I'm Connor Stalions, I'm persona non grata in NCAA circles anyways. I'm not going to be cooperative. Would you be? If your whole life was dedicated to one particular football program, you got to the mountaintop of that football program, and now your name is synonymous with a scandal, and you were kind of thrown under the bus. Like, I'm not talking to the NCAA. I'm a former military veteran. I have to go find a job now because I am not going to coach for anybody ever again. I'm out of the football biz. I got to go find a job. And I'm just supposed to hand you over my phone for something that wasn't illegal but against the rules. Try again, NCAA. I ain't falling for it because I don't want something that's in my phone. It's the Tom Brady thing.
Yeah, okay, so
hey, Tom Brady, let's have your phone. Yeah, no, so you're not getting it. Where is it? It's in bleach, smashed to bits.
So it's interesting because obviously we can assume that Connor Stalions is not, like, rich. But again, Justin, like, I think back, and this is an odd example, but one that just came to mind. Do you remember in the U Part 2 when it was found out about Nevin Shapiro and all that? And he goes, oh, Miami, you think you're going to turn the door on me? Oh, I'm going to tell the NCAA everything.
Everything, yeah.
So if Connor Stalions was independently wealthy, I'm just saying, where would, he grew up a Michigan fan, but if, like, the roles were reversed, Justin, and, like, you grew up the biggest Oregon fan, went to go work for Oregon.
That is true. I did not go to work for them, though.
And then they threw you under the bus.
That'd be awful.
Would you stand there and say, I defend my university, or would you be like, well, so I think that's a very hard line to walk.
Here's the
very hard line to walk.
I hear you, but here's what I wonder. What's his relationship with Harbaugh? And what's his relationship with the current coaching staff?
Totally.
Because if the relationship is still good and they can be like, dude, sorry, you got screwed on this one. You did a job well, so well, almost did it too well. And I just wonder, like, what his relationship, because if Harbaugh is still like, dude, you're my guy, don't worry about it, I got you, that might be different. Because I hear what you're saying. If all of a sudden, like, your entire life was to try to find a way to Michigan football, and obviously he's not going to make it as a player because he's too small, found a way through espionage. Football espionage, not regular espionage, but football spy game. It found a way, and then all of a sudden, like, yeah, you can't ever be around this program again. I could see, Brenden, where you're talking about, where it's like, I'm throwing everybody under the bus. You take me down, nope, we're all going down. Unless you got a pretty good relationship with Jim Harbaugh still. Because I don't think Harbaugh's ever been like, nope, this guy was a nothing burger. That's usually the first thing that happens, right? I don't know who this guy is. Harbaugh was, like, kind of quiet about it, so that's where it's going to be interesting. But the timing of this is fascinating because the NCAA very rarely, if ever, leaks out their findings. But there's a documentary coming out. There's a Netflix show coming out that most people are probably going to watch. And if Connor Stalions didn't talk to them, what did he tell Netflix? So now I'm even more excited. Like, I was going to watch it regardless. Don't get me wrong. I was going to watch the Connor Stallions thing, but now, what's he going to say? Is there something there?
I don't know.
Netflix is loving this, by the way, because it just brings it all back to fruition. I am clearly if I'm Michigan, I tell the NCAA, kiss off. We've done our thing.
Probably with more colorful language.
Yeah, well, it's 8:10 in the a.m. and I'm on radio, so which is funny because much like the NCAA. The FCC, which is our governing body here on the broadcast world, everybody can curse now except us.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
Every podcast out there, everybody on the internet, even Pat McAfee in about 45 minutes is going to be on ESPN, just dropping curse words left and right. We're the only ones that can't curse anymore, and that's fine. I've managed.
I'll see it in my lifetime. I firmly believe that.
I've managed, knock on wood. I've been able to skirt by for the last 20 years.
Do you think we'll ever see that? Or do you think it's too old?
I don't think so.
Too old school.
I think the broadcasting part of it. I'm
curious, and just in, life is long, Justin.
The thing that radio has, and just in network TV, is as long as it's free, and much as we don't want to admit it, the government owns the airwaves. They do.
They do.
Government owns the airwaves.
That they do.
And as long as the government owns the airwaves, they're going to be like, you are going to keep your potty mouth off of our airwaves. And I'm like, all right, I can do that. But when you pay for it, like you pay for cable, well, then it's a little bit different. And McAfee can just drop curse words left and right.
So that would still explain the ABC, Fox, the OG,
if you can get it on an antenna, I believe it's still FCC rule.
So that's why
cable makes their own rules because we pay for it.
So that's why it was a big deal with the Oscars and Will Smith.
Yes.
I don't know if we saw that here or if it was the BBC one that went live, but that was a curse word over whatever it was on. I forget if it was probably ABC.
It was ABC.
Yeah.
I was not watching the Oscars, but I had it on and I was watching something else. And then I looked at my phone. I was like, whoa, wait, stop what we're doing.
Yeah.
Rewind. Because Oscars are very boring and they're very long. I like to watch it condensed and I'm like, whoa, we got to watch this. And they delayed that.
And it's like the FCC's like, we got 4 complaints from the Will Smith. 4 complaints means 4 billion people, which means 4 billion people are outraged.
I don't think we're ever going to, on our air, I'm not. I've managed, it's a habit I'm not going to break anytime soon. But that being said, if I'm Michigan, and if I'm the Big Ten, or if I'm a TV network that just paid over $1 billion for Big Ten football. It's like, Michigan's going to be good, guys. Here's what we're not going to do. We're not going to postseason ban them, and we're definitely not going to suspend their coach. And if you do suspend their coach, we're just going to say no. Because I do believe that can happen. Football is the only sport that can pull it off. NCAA doesn't run anything in football. They are technically a governing body, but they don't run the sport. Conferences run the regular season, bowl games and college football playoff run the postseason. The NCAA, you ever notice how there's not an NCAA champion of college football? Because the NCAA doesn't run it. Hey, Michigan, your coach is suspended. Cute. No, he's not. We did that last year. It didn't work out, so kick rocks. But what? No. We're done here. Kick rocks. All right, coming up. Do want to? What do we got? Top 100. Top 100 in the NFL. An egregious error. But before we get to that, do want to let you know, Ticket Tuesday. That's tomorrow, and we keep the winning streak alive. Exclusive tickets to the Hillsboro Hops all season long. Listen to Rip City Drive every Tuesday for your chance to win, or you can get Hops tickets right now at hillsborohops.com. More Rip City Mornings next. 620 Rip City Radio. All right, so every year in August, the NFL Network, I think now it's NFL Plus, does their top 100 players right now. Now, these are voted on by current NFL players. So this is whom NFL players believe are the best players in the league, ranking 1 through 100. Now, at the end of the day, none of this matters, right? It's not like they take away the Lombardi Trophy and would or an MVP and be like, yeah, you weren't voted into the top 5. But much like Madden ratings and All-Pro, like players do kind of care about this. It does come up from time to time. A lot of it is usually, I'll show them I was ranked lower than I thought. And usually when you get into the top 10, it's kind of the usual suspects. But in this year's top 10, I claim baloney. I claim shenanigans. I'm wondering, is there just a bunch of haters in the league? And I don't even like using the term hater because I sound very old when I say it, but there's no other way to describe what I saw in the top 5 other than just a bunch of hating, haters. For context, by the way, coming in at number 100 is Zaire Franklin, who is an outside linebacker for the Colts. Number 92, Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers comes in at number 92. Now, I know that he's obviously in the twilight of his career and coming off of an Achilles injury. You're telling me that there are 91 players better than Aaron Rodgers.
That's tough.
In the NFL right now. You're telling me that I like Tyree Woolen, cornerback for the Seahawks. I think that's who we were talking. He's a rookie in 2022. I think that's a Bronco pick.
It is.
I like Tyreek Woolen. He ain't better than Aaron Rodgers.
No.
If the Jets came to the Seahawks right now and said Tyreek Woolen for Aaron Rodgers straight up, like, yes and yes. So that's kind of what we're doing.
Like you said, maybe a popularity contest.
It's what we're dealing with here. Because anytime you've got players involved, right? Who are their boys?
I don't know.
Who do they hate? Who is their agent? Who's in there? All of that kind of stuff. So let's do the top 10 and tell me where you notice something's a little fishy. Number 10, Max Crosby. No problem there. Max Crosby's a dog.
He's really good.
I love Max Crosby. I think and again, I kind of go back to what we did last week with certain quarterbacks. Is there a team in the league that wouldn't take him? That would be like, yeah, or wouldn't give up something significant to get this player? Max Crosby, clearly, he's a dog. Number 9, Travis Kelce, maybe the greatest tight end of all time. Number 8, TJ Watt. You're darn right. Number 7, Trent Williams. Trent Williams, best offensive lineman in the game. At least that's what. I don't know how to evaluate offensive linemen. The fact that I know who he is probably tells me an awful lot right there.
Right.
And the fact that the 49ers keep paying him lots and lots of money.
Very
and
true.
that Brock Purdy doesn't get hit all that often. Trent Williams, number 7. Again, I got no problems. Okay, Chris Jones. Now, Chris Jones, Max Crosby, TJ Watt, and, by the way, number 5, Myles Garrett. Those 4 guys, I mean, we're nitpicking here, right? Aren't we? When you start talking about Crosby, TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, and Chris Jones. Any one of those guys could be a top 5. Any one of those guys could be a top 10. I'm not going to nitpick here. I'm not going to be mad about it. This is where it gets
a little odd.
Absurdly ridiculous. Number 4, according to the players in the NFL, number 4, to where they are saying there are 3 guys better. Patrick Mahomes? Patrick Mahomes comes in ranked number 4 in the top 100. Now, again, this doesn't mean anything. They don't take away his Lombardis. They don't take away his championship rings, and they don't take away his MVPs, and they certainly don't take away his awesome commercials. But this is haterade, right? Mary J. Blige taught us about haterade. This is tomfoolery. How on earth could any football player at all who has not, and again, my football playing experience ended in 1997. I get it. I'm not an expert. I just watched the game and I love the game. But I'm far from an expert. I don't coach it. I don't watch the film. I don't play fantasy football. But Patrick Mahomes is the best player in the league. We just saw Vegas odds to win MVP. Patrick Mahomes, odds on favorite. Vegas, by the way, kind of has it right. You want to know why? Because Vegas, they don't put emotion into it. It's strictly business. It's not show friends. It's show business. It's straight cash, homie. That's what Vegas cares about. And they got Patrick Mahomes sitting as the odds-on favorite to win MVP. Fourth. Okay, so who's ahead of him?
So that tells me, real quick.
Yeah.
That tells me, Justin, that there are players in the NFL, and this is not wrong. This is not how I feel, but just when I hear that, because for my money, pound for pound, there has not been a quarterback who has physically been able to do the things that Patrick Mahomes has done. Maybe, there was some athletic quarterback way back in the day that, and who, all that to say. But, like, Mahomes, talent for talent. So that tells me that there are a big chunk of his peers who are, A, jealous.
Yeah, a bunch of haters. It's true.
And, B, are like, oh, well, if you gave Lamar Jackson Travis Kelce, he'd probably win, or, insert whoever kind of a here. And, there is, we'll get to the rest of the list. But when I saw it was just, you said it to me and I just laughed.
It's absurd.
Just laughed.
It's absurd. And I'm not a Chiefs fan.
I think
Patrick Mahomes is awesome.
I like to root for him now. He wins. I like winners.
I'm not a super fan. I'm just like, how on earth could anybody honestly sit there and be like, that guy's not the best player in the NFL? Because here's the other. So Christian McCaffrey comes in at number 3. All right. I can understand how you could talk yourself into that. I get it. Lamar Jackson, number 2. And I'm pro Lamar Jackson. I think I laid out my case last year when he was getting a bunch of criticism, and I thought unfair criticism because he didn't have an agent and he was letting his mom negotiate his contract and all that stuff. And I'm like, trust me, as a Steelers fan, boy, if Lamar Jackson would be out of the AFC North, I would be a happy individual. That being said, Brenden, you and I, we get John Harbaugh in a room and go, John, truth. Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes with your current roster. There's no way he takes Lamar Jackson.
No.
And he's been Lamar Jackson's biggest defender, and I understand he should be Lamar Jackson's biggest defender because Lamar Jackson is one of the best quarterbacks. This is a special, special player. And then Tyreek Hill is number 1 on the list. He's up 6 spots from last year. He's a top 10 player.
But is he the best player in football? He's
No.
the fastest player in football.
Fastest player in
and
football.
And I'll give you that credit. When you are the to be honest, Justin, like to see Tyreek Hill run against Noah Lyles. I think Tyreek Hill would be right there. The Cheetah is one of the fastest people on planet Earth.
Here's the thing. I saw this. They did the math on this. Now, again, the 100 meters, the thing that I learned, and I learned this in Eugene, because I always thought the 100 meters, it was just you line up and you run as fast as you can. And they're like, no, believe it or not, in that 9 seconds, there's strategy. There's a, it's small and it's minuscule, but that's how you win by 0.005 of a second. But there's a strategy on, like, you got to close and you don't want to. But the first 40 yards of the 100-meter dash that Noah Lyles ran was about a 4.49. But the thing is, you've got 70 more yards to go because you're running 100 meters.
You said 4.49?
I think it was about a 4.49.
So I was just curious. So Tyreek Hill one's a 4.24.
Yeah.
So,
but that's
he's ran the
that's
length
not
of
even halfway of the 100 meters.
He
Because,
has-
like I said, you wouldn't think it, but actually there is strategy to the 100 meters. Because Lyles was like, he was back, and then he closed that last 20 meters or so like a sledgehammer. But, yeah, it's...
But you've seen that video, like, where...
It would depend on the length.
Got you. Because, like, you've seen that, and I have no idea. I'm just asking a dumb question.
Yeah.
You've seen that video, or just because there's, like, 4 or 5 of his career, where Tyreek Hill catches the ball at, like, his 20, and he's just gone. And it's, like, 70, 80 yards, and you're like, there's, like, he is just, like...
I don't think there's any disputing he's the fastest player in the NFL.
I would like to... Like, it'd be fun to see kind of like him without pads, too.
Well,
like,
okay, so let me ask you...
I'd be curious to see that.
Let me ask you this. Because... We did the quarterback thing with Dak, right? Every team in the NFL would take Patrick Mahomes. Every single one. There is not one team in the NFL, I believe right now, if they were truly being honest, that would not give up their current quarterback, including Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, Caleb Williams, CJ Stroud, any of those guys, they would give up their quarterback for Patrick Mahomes right now. Every team in the league would. Can you say the same thing about Tyreek Hill? The Chiefs let him go. Now, that might have been an economic thing. If you take economics out of this, would you, if you were the Cincinnati Bengals, would you rather have Tyreek Hill or Jamar Chase?
Jamar Chase.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Would
you rather have Tyreek Hill or DeAndre Hopkins?
Tyreek Hill.
All right. Would you rather have Tyreek Hill or Justin Jefferson?
Well, Justin Jefferson. Now
so the fact that the argument exists
there's probably about 5
that he's not the best receiver in the league. I'm not saying he's not. I'm saying the argument exists. There is no argument that Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league. Right. There is no If you have a friend who's like, I don't know if Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league, then you check their temperature and go, like, are you having a fever dream right now? Because anybody who has watched football knows that he's the best. Now, we'll see what happens this year. Maybe this is a predictor. Who knows? But he's the best.
Yeah, I mean,
there is no definitive Tyreek Hill is the best receiver. There's an argument.
Don't
get me wrong, but
because
I got Justin Jefferson, I got Jamar Chase, I got DeAndre Hopkins.
I'll throw in Cooper Kupp, man. Bowl MVP, Cooper Kupp.
What's Devontae Adams?
Amon-Ra for the Lions, dude. He put up ridiculous numbers this last year. So the
fact that there's an argument.
Mike Evans, even in Tampa, put up stupid numbers this year. So and we didn't even mention Deebo Samuel or Ayuk.
I know.
Right?
Well, I don't recognize Ayuk. I'm still mad about 2019.
Oh, okay. Okay. That sounds like a you problem, though.
Did you, when you were recording when I had Yogi Roth on, and Yogi mentioned Brenden Ayuk, and I was like, 2019. He was like,
that was great.
He knew the route, too. He's like, slang go.
Yeah. It's understandable, very much how I hang on to things from 08 and 09. It's perfectly fair for you to hang on to that thing in 19 that kept you out of the play. I do not judge. I do not judge.
Is Lamar Jackson even the second best quarterback in the league?
No, not by my money. But there's an argument. Like you said, there's an argument
there.
Yes.
And I could see why players would be like, dude, that's where I do kind of give the players credit. They got to play against him. And
that's true.
Maybe game planning against Lamar Jackson might be the toughest game plan of the league, but playing against Patrick Mahomes has got to be the toughest day of your season if you do play him.
I mean, I don't want to look just at accomplishments, but guys who are still in the league. Okay, like you said, Aaron Rodgers has won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Okay. Matthew Stafford's won a Super Bowl. Who else do I really love? I think, again, not to say that these guys are better than Lamar necessarily, but there's arguments to be made up and down the NFL. Like, after last year, could you make an argument for Dak over Lamar? Maybe not, but his numbers were a lot better, right? And
it's a fair argument.
And
I would still take Lamar Jackson, but I'm a kind of a hater on Dak too.
I'm not the biggest Dak fan either, but for instance, I'd take Joe Burrow. He doesn't run. I get it. Lamar's a runner, man, and that's that dual threatness.
Mm-hmm.
But Justin,
Now, that being said, I would take Lamar Jackson over both Russell Wilson and Justin Fields.
That's fair.
Tomorrow.
Hey, your team had a chance to go get him too, like the Falcons or any other team, and we're like, nah, we're good.
Couldn't afford it. Hey, we got to pay T.J. Watt,
it's
dude.
Fair. It's fair. Salary cap is a real thing in the NFL.
It's a real
Not like the
thing.
NBA where they just kind of circumvent it.
Here's what's interesting, though. Not ranked last year, 20th this year. Biggest leap on the list, C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud goes from unranked to 20th.
And that might even be low. Like,
I think 20th is a little. Well, again, Vegas has C.J. Stroud second best odds to win MVP. Second best odds to win MVP.
You could have sold me on top 15 for him this year. You could have.
Well, let's see who's in the top. So Dak is at 16. I'll give me C.J. over Dak. Jalen Hurts is at 15. Give me C.J. Stroud over Jalen Hurts. Let's see. Josh Allen at 12. I'm sticking with Josh Allen.
Yeah.
Still sticking with Josh Allen.
But,
and those are the quarterbacks.
But, to your point, too, like, we don't, like, how's Jalen Hurts going to be without Jason Kelce this year? You've said that all offseason long, and I'm like, I liked Jalen Hurts. I still kind of do.
Let's talk about this real quick. Right? You think about the teams that are going to be good. What makes them special? Every good team, like everybody in the NFL kind of has the same baseline. And then there are just certain things that make you special. The Chiefs have Kelce and Mahomes and Andy Reid, right? They got things that will make them special. 49ers have Brock Purdy making $800,000 so they can pay everybody, and they have more weapons. That's what makes them special. Houston Texans have got a young budding superstar in C.J. Stroud. That's what makes them special. So when you kind of get into all of like the what makes you special conversation, what made the Philadelphia Eagles special? The fact that if it was 4th and 2, they're picking up a first down. You know what I mean? It
was like death and taxes, man. Yeah. Like, it was as reliable.
97% of the time. Well,
the brotherly shove, baby. Yeah,
that's what made Philadelphia set themselves apart. Like, they're a good team. Great baseline, but what set them apart was that it was anytime you got 3rd and 1, 4th and 1 on your side of the 50, you're picking it up.
Yeah,
you figured it out, and that's what made them special. Well, the guy that was leading the charge, well, he's gone now. Now, I will say, Jalen Hurts also squats 600 pounds.
He's got Alabama strength, man. Like,
as a
crazy
quarterback, it's insane how strong he is. But you can't tell me you're not gonna. Even if that thing goes from I think it was 94%, that it even got up to 97%. Let's say it gets down to 85%. Those are turnovers.
Yeah,
15% of the time.
It'll be interesting because that's a team that, there's going to be a lot of expectations on them. Like, the Cowboys and them are probably the two biggest, okay, if things don't go well, people will be fired kind of a thing. And I don't know if there's anywhere quite in the NFL than the NFC. I'll go ahead and throw in the East, Justin, because if the Giants are the NFC East could be brutal this year. We'll see. But
other rankings of note, Deebo Samuel at 30.
Seems a bit low.
That's way low.
You told me for pound, you think he's one of the best Swiss Army knives in the NFL.
I think he's one of the best players in the entire NFL.
Yeah.
And everything that he can do, he can slot receiver, running back, end around.
Put the ball in his hands.
Put the ball in his hands, which is why you put him with the other most dynamic player, which is Christian McCaffrey, and they're in the same team.
And then toss an Ayuk to ho-hum.
And George Kittle and all those other guys.
I know.
49ers are going to be unbearable. I can already hear Chris Burkhardt just cackling. I can hear him cackling. The 49ers are going to be unbearable this year. All right. What's not unbearable is the RCM mailbag, and that is next on 620 Rip City Radio. All right, let's wrap up the big show. We do that the same way each and every day with the RCM mailbag. Random questions, any subject, any topic. Nothing is off limits, and I repeat, will not duck the tough questions. How many tough questions will we get to? Well, there's only one way to find out. Let's fire up the mailbag. Here we go.
All right, Justin, this is a safe space. You can tell me, tell the listening audience everything you told me with House of Dragon this morning.
All right, spoilers. Well, what spoilers? I mean, it was a big old nothing burger all season long, a big old nothing burger from House of Dragons. So I've come up with this is simply me. Speaking for myself, I speak not for Brenden. I speak not for the station. I speak solely for myself. I love Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones is, I don't know if it's a top 5 show of all time, but it's certainly a top 10 show of all time. We don't have time enough to figure out if it's top 5 or top 10, but it is certainly a top 10 show of all time. And when it ended, there was a little sadness because it was such a good show, even though the last season was a little meh. But
that's putting it kindly.
Kindly. That being said, it was still Game of Thrones. And when we got House of the Dragon, like, oh, okay, more Game of Thrones. Here we go. And we got first season. Wasn't too bad. Didn't go in with a ton of expectations. But then we're like, all right, now here we go. Quest for power, family dynamics, dragons, all this stuff. I found myself watching House of the Dragon. Is it House of Dragons or House of the Dragon?
The Dragon, yeah.
House of the Dragon, missing Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's its intention. And I feel like I said this morning I was maybe a little bit tired and a little bit cranky. I said, I'm out. I don't think I'm going to watch season 3. Now, that's probably a lie. Because what else? What else are you going to do on Sunday nights? You're going to watch it. There's going to be 8 or 10 episodes. That being said, this is a mediocre at best show.
It will be
mediocre at best.
2 or 3 years. So, I mean, you might, like you said, you might be onto something new by then, Justin. A lot can happen in 2 or 3 years. 3 years ago, the Trailblazers were still in the playoffs. So, just throwing that out there, y'all. So,
that is
mic
so
drop.
Correct. It's
Mic
very
drop.
true. The Blazers were in the playoffs when House of the Dragon was on first season.
I'm just saying, but that all being said.
That's the thing. Last night, again, for those that watched it, we saw The Night King. We saw a vision of Daenerys Targaryen. 2 of the things. One we loved in Daenerys Targaryen, one we hated in The Night King. And it was just another example of like, yeah, you ain't it. House of the Dragon. You ain't it. You ain't Game of Thrones. And that's fine. How could you be? How could you ever? So.
Well, and I know you didn't watch it, but like for me, I kind of look at it the same way of like, you could, even though I thought it was terrific, you would be foolhardy to say that Better Call Saul was Breaking Bad.
Yeah,
now,
it's its own thing.
That being said, it was fine in its own right, but Breaking Bad, to Justin's point, is like Game of Thrones. One of the greatest TV shows ever
It might be the
made.
best. Might be the best.
Period. So, and it ended perfectly, so it kind of has that.
I got Breaking Bad in there. I got West Wing in there.
Yeah.
I got The Wire in there. And then I haven't even got to a funny show because, like, I've got Seinfeld.
I would need some time to put that list together. Couldn't do it in a quick, maybe build up to a mailbag midweek kind of a thing. I need some time to procure that list, Justin.
The Office, Seinfeld, Wire, Breaking Bad, West Wing. Am I missing one?
Trying to think of the best shows, just
I don't know. I am. I mean, Friends, but Friends is it's its own thing. It has its own kind of little area, but I think it's those 5. I really do. I think it's those 5.
Yeah, I mean,
I understand that the West Wing gets less and less relevant.
You said The Wire, right?
I did say The Wire. Breaking Bad, Wire, West Wing, Office, Seinfeld.
Just as far as like what is consensusly thrown
Just
up.
my top 5, and
Yeah.
I don't think I'm missing one in there.
No, the other one I haven't watched it, but from what I've heard from people, Sopranos.
Sopranos is good. Wasn't as good as The Wire.
Okay, good.
Wasn't as good as West Wing, but I like Sopranos. Sopranos was good.
That would kind of be the only other like quote GOAT TV show that was kind of really, really up there. But no, it's the I actually have had a buddy of mine recommend both The Sopranos and The Wire. I haven't seen
Wire's
either.
so good.
Which would be first to watch?
Wire. Watch The Wire.
I'm
highly
all in on
recommend.
Max.
Yeah, you need to watch The Wire.
Okay, yeah. So you think you think
I would
like
think
it?
you would enjoy The Wire. Yes, it is incredibly good.
Because Justin, I appreciate you being truthful to me because there's some things that I tell you to watch that I just selfishly want to see your reaction to watching that I'm like, yeah, he probably won't like. Like when you told me you're like, I'm going to watch Deadpool on your flight to Hawaii.
I did.
A part of me goes, oh, I was like, awesome. But then other part of me is like, he's probably not going to like that movie.
I didn't get it.
And I don't blame you. It's just,
I didn't get it.
You know what I mean?
I think
like,
there is a level of comic book nerd baseline you have to enjoy it, and I just didn't have it. I just don't. I don't have it, and that's fine. I didn't get it. It funny. It was I stuck around to the end. I was entertained, but at the end I was like, I just don't quite get it. But that's me with a lot of comic book stuff. I just don't get it.
Yeah, no, it's understandable, but I would also push back, Justin, and go, you're looking at someone who's never read a comic one day in his life.
But you keep up on all that nerd stuff, though.
Well, it's like mostly Twitter, man. It's like how I'll say this. Like, Justin, we just talked about how you're out on it. Maybe my favorite Twitter follow is the Westerosi's Twitter account, and it's literally just all like House of Dragon, Game of Thrones stuff.
I think there's a lot of people who got very much into Game of Thrones who are not allowing themselves to say something maybe disparaging of the franchise.
Fair.
And or maybe convincing themselves that no, even though I find myself bored and looking at my phone during these episodes, which you did, don't want to believe it. That it was kind of a boring season. It just was.
I just wonder if, Justin, like
This is kind of boring.
Like you tell me in the great, and we can go ahead and wrap up with this as we got about 45 seconds left. Was this season Justin Myers at his dinner table eating the vegetables first, getting them out of the way, so we set up what's probably going to be an entire season 3 of just nonstop action?
I hate being set up on TV shows. I do. I hate it. I don't want to be set up.
You don't watch your vegetables in TV, Justin?
No. That being said, Apple TV Plus, Presumed Innocent. Awesome.
I heard it's great.
That's awesome. I'm only halfway through it, and it's awesome. All right, that's going to do it for the big show. Thanks to super producer Brenden. Thanks to all of you. Have a terrific Monday, everybody. We are back at it bright and early here on 620 Rip City Radio.